We're a go. We're live. Whatever. I'm coming. I'm coming.
Today is
Hello.
Thursday, right?
Thursday?
Thursday.
Thursday? Yes.
Thursday. Last day of filming. Yeah.
Last day of filming of the... Hello! Putting on my chipper face. Welcome to the Sun Dragon Sideshow.
The Adventures of Liz and Rebecca, the Dear Becky and Lizzy edition today.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah, because I forgot what day it was, even though we just talked about it.
But we sold people stuff yesterday.
Yes, we did.
So, you know, hi. I'm Rebecca, aka Becky today, the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in downtown Chile. The sun is attempting to make an appearance, Brevard, North Carolina.
And Liz, aka Lizzy, today. The minion there.
And yeah, it's our advice column day. And it's already been a day. Let me tell you.
It's our 100th episode.
Oh, I forgot. Thank you. See, I had a migraine yesterday. Could you tell? Anyone want to go back and watch Wednesday and see if you can tell? I boiled my coffee yesterday.
Twice.
No, only once.
Only once?
No, the 2 minutes.
Yeah.
When I do my morning meditations, if you watch these. Liz's husband makes me coffee. And it's in the fridge at home. And I nuke it for a good 2 minutes before to make it hot for the morning meditations and for me to drink. And I film my morning meditation. And then I go get ready, and then I have breakfast. And by then, the coffee needs to be just zapped just a little. And yesterday, I didn't realize I was on autopilot. I reheated it, and then when I went to open the door, half the coffee was on the floor of the microwave because it boiled because I had done another 2 minutes without realizing, when I should have done 30 seconds. So that should have been an indication that was going to be a rough day.
Why?
Because also, have you ever tried to drink coffee that has been like
boiled twice?
Boiled. I'm going to say once, but yes.
Well, I mean, it was boiled-ish the first time it was made.
But, oh, that's what you mean by twice. Never mind. It gets this weird film on it that appears more as you let it cool. Yeah. Good day. And then the cat, I had a battle royale with my cat last night. In that, he tries to get me out of bed at 2 a.m. And for a while now, I have been just getting out of bed, giving him breakfast, and getting back in bed and going to sleep. And a couple of nights recently, he kind of bugged me, but then went on his way. And I'm like, oh, good. We're training him into a new trend where he'll leave me alone and I will get up and feed him at 6-ish. Last night, I chose that hill to die on.
He was not having it.
He was not like, oh, okay, fine. He snuck attacked me from the side of the bed, and I have scratches on me to prove it because I was facing the wrong direction. I was facing towards the edge of the bed. He hopped up and down and all around. He started to climb over me and poke at Brian. That Brian remembers all this happened in the morning means it was bad. Usually he doesn't remember any of it. So, and I had such a bad migraine, whatever, by the end of the day yesterday that I went home and slept for like an hour, or tried to, before having dinner. So I needed the sleep last night to kind of
finish off,
get me out, restore me. And I went to bed later than I should have. I should have gone to bed at like 9, and I didn't. And then the cat. And then I had this thing running through my head of
a pattern for lace-weight yarn. What?
I shouldn't start another project. I have so many projects going, but every time the cat woke me up, this is what I saw, what I want to make from this, which means I'm going to be starting another project this weekend, if not today. Otherwise, it will just be in my head like, oh, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but I had a migraine, so I can't even do that. How's your day going?
I woke up in the middle of a dream and it was Humphrey, the second detective from Death in Paradise, and
Oh,
we were
God.
going yarn shopping.
Is that the red hair guy?
We were going yarn shopping.
You yarn shop with Death in Paradise.
Yeah, he wasn't a detective though, which was weird.
Yeah.
But like,
they thought
obviously, I'm doing too many things in my life that only like we've been watching Death in Paradise when I'm home, and like 2 episodes, 3 episodes a night, depending on when I get home. And then I'm at the yarn shop all day, so we were going yarn shopping at a completely random yarn shop.
He was rumored to be the next Doctor Who before Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah, but he's a ginger.
I know. But you know, he can't do things other than be a detective. That's all I'm saying. But poor gingers, I tell you. I've been watching Shakespeare in Hathaway, and I watched a couple of episodes before bed last night, and I should have not even watched a full episode. But I was trying to get my nephew's hat done, which I'm showing y'all today because I'm at actually, I think I went further on the decrease. I went to 19 centimeters, and then I measured the other side, which was supposed to be 19 centimeters, and I think the other side's a little short. And so I backed a little out because I think I'm ready to start the decreases. I'm showing y'all because it needs to go in the mail like tomorrow. So I won't be able to show y'all on Tuesday. But in case you're wondering, like, what? Because someone yesterday, shout out to Pat, was like, you're doing the brim of your hat with this other color that I really want. And I'm like, no, it's not a brim. It's a whole nother hat that goes inside. Or to show you, because I was trying to test this, I can put this hat inside this one right now because it's still on the needles. To show you what happens, it's like magic. There's many different ways to do a hat like this. Anna Johanna's pattern is what I'm using, the hubby hat. And see, you end up with
a double thick
hat, which is wonderful. See, this, I will make the top that will go over this, and I'll probably tack the ends together. I had to stop. I could have finished it last night, but I'm at the point where I'm going to be decreasing, and I just want to show you the bottom rim here, like the inside right now as it stands. Or he could wear it with the brown on the outside with this just peak. Either way, you get just the little peak because there's a pearl row here. If he has the stripy side out, he'll have a little rim of brown. And if he has the brown side out, he'll have a little rim of zombie barbecue. Before I get to the decrease part, because once this decreases, the inside of the hat is inaccessible, right? I need to sew in this end, and in the inside is the brown end. And I haven't sewn the end of the hat here in yet because I'm hoping to use this end to tack the two tops together. Otherwise they would come out and come in and
get twisty.
Get all twisty. I did the same thing with his dad's hat that I made. That I've seen him wearing a couple of times. I'm like, yay, success! Because you never know when you make someone something if they're actually gonna use it. And I've made nothing against Larry and what he wants to wear. I've made him some random stuff over the years that I'm sure he's never worn. I made him a sweater years and years ago that I don't think came out that well. So I'm not offended if he doesn't wear it. And I don't think he's a sweater person. But that was what I was doing that year.
It could be great to upcycle into sweater mittens.
Well, yeah, they didn't have a pattern on it like the Bernie mitts. But it had like, all I remember of it, besides trying to block it like Christmas Eve, not a thing, is it had a stitch pattern in it that when you change from knits and pearls, it made it, I could call it a Charlie Brown sweater because it was deep green, but it had a zigzag in it because you switched from knits to pearls and made the zigzag as like a relief textural pattern thing. Anyway, I'm sure he never wore it, and I don't blame him. A, because I'm not sure if it came out the right size, and B, I don't think he's a sweater person, but he is a hat person. And apparently his son is taking after him. So his son got one of the anemone hats for Christmas, but this is going to be just a simple basic beanie, but you can either wear it with
Inside, outside, upside down.
yes. And we've got the tonal dark browns, or we have the hot and crazy zigzag, the spiral. I didn't know if it was going to spiral or just be completely like variegated. I think really variegated would look awesome in this color as well. But I just went with whatever's going to happen, which turned out to be a zigzag, which one of our customers thought was self-striping. And I'm like, no, this was a happy accident. It's not planned to stripe. Lorna's Laces does have some sock yarns that are planned to stripe. This is not. Ooh, one more thing before we go to our advice column. The Puno that we showed yesterday, which we've put all of them away. I discovered a fun fact when doing the write-up for the Puno. And maybe I'll get a scan of it before the end of the show, or you can go back and watch yesterday's episode. Lang said on their website, and I was unaware of this, even though we've had this in the shop for like forever. 3 years. They describe the Puno with the really long fade of like 3 sections that kind of shift in the middle of right where the sections change. They said it's knit and dyed, and then they unravel it and steam it and wind it up into a giant cake, which means it was a big, huge, giant sock blank. If you know what sock blanks are, which essentially is a blank thing that is already knit and then you dye it.
And it would be twice as big as normal sock blanks because it's 800 meters.
Because it's huge.
Instead of 400.
It's half a mile of yarn. So that's just really cool. And when they say hand dyed, I really think that, or hand painted, I think they use the language. I really think that they mean like, instead of like a soak dye, it's color is applied to it in a different way. Because I'm sure the way they do it, they don't have a worker just standing there painting the yarn. But who knows? Who knows? I think our purples are a dyeing accident. Instead of 3 shades, we have like 2 intermingled and then a third in the batch that we have, but we haven't gotten the batch yet. So, you can have a one of a kind. But that was really cool for me as I'm writing it up. I'm like, I never knew that. Really fun process. Usually when there's a long gradient fade to a yarn, there is an interesting way to make it because it's not so easy. If it's already skeined, if it's already in the band, you can't do that gradual fade. You have to have something else happening with the yarn for it to work. And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not. I want to say the fiber company or the 50 Shades of Fade, that almost looks when it's wound up like it has a mild kink to it. Like maybe it used to be a blank.
Some gradients are either like they'll do I-cord where it'll just suck up through the I-cord. Mm-hmm.
But they still have to undo that later, right?
But there's that way where you either do it in I-cord or a sock blank, or you have to string it on, you take
a really specific way.
Really specific, like it's like wrapped around a really long, wide, like 6 feet wide or bigger. It's super complicated, and I'm not doing it.
Which is why it usually costs more to have something that does a gradient. And people are like, ooh, do you have gradients or fades in the shop? Very few, if any. Because it's complicated and expensive, if you want it done right. So, all right. I think I'm done.
Okay. Oh.
I'm probably not done, but
I'm ahead of the bag.
Did I mention I had a really whopping bad migraine yesterday?
Yeah, but you worked on yours for a little bit.
You want to show it off?
I don't care.
Okay, here's how far ahead. You're only ahead by like a section.
A contrast row. Oh, no, I got the top bubbles. Never mind.
That's what I mean.
And
see, I could see that, and I had a migraine. Okay, I got in, this is section 50, right?
Yep.
I got this in yesterday, sitting at the shop, trying not to have my brain melt out my ears.
The bottom half of the Pokemon balls.
Mm-hmm. And she's got the top half of her Pokemon balls. See? There we go. So, it's still a tight race or a friendly rivalry, as I'm
anybody's race.
Anyone could win. And honestly, it doesn't matter. She's probably going to win in the end. So, because I'm about to start another project. So, I worked on my Stay Out of the Forest shawl yesterday when I couldn't finish this. and I was like, ooh, I'll get to the fade part where, I have 20 to 25% of my skein left, and I start going in between them for my morning meditation. And so I got like 4 or 5 rows done on the shawl, which is getting bigger. And then I weighed my skein of yarn of the dark that I have. I still had over 50 grams left.
I weighed.
No way that was getting down to a fade part.
I weighed my Puno yesterday, both balls, just to, because I measured it and I was like, ooh, I've done like 11 inches unstretched, but 11 inches. And Bernie goes, you're getting closer. And I weighed it and I'd only used like 30, 35 grams. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not getting closer at all.
Which actually is a decent amount if you're not doing 200 gram skeins.
Yeah.
And 2 of them.
Yeah.
400 grams. That's not even 10%. Yeah. I'm going to grab a skein of the Puno while you pull up. I think we have one question.
We have one question.
For today. We have more on the way. I know that. But
I will refresh.
Yeah.
Nope.
So somehow I'm going to make progress on everything this weekend, right? And I have 2 virtual lessons this weekend. That's going to be fun.
Well, isn't one of them a Papillon class?
Your point?
You have a Papillon now to work on.
Yes, but I need to get the Papillon to a red and orange part.
Oh.
Which isn't going to take...
Well, actually, in one more section, after you finish 16, the next 17, 18, and all those. Yeah, we have one question. Do you want me to wait?
Yes.
Okay, I'll wait.
Vamp, Liz, vamp.
Yeah, because, I do that so well.
Just to remind you all of the lovely Puno. It is not this thing in front of me. This is what was obsessing my dreams last night. This was last week's cotton and wool, 1,500 yards. I'm going to make something with this. Anyway.
Merino silk and alpaca.
This is merino silk and alpaca. 1, 2, 3. Apparently, and you can see a little mild kink to this yarn too. It was knit up and then hand painted and then unraveled and made into a gorgeous cake of 200 yarn. 200 grams.
200 grams.
Still getting over my brain.
800 meters. 437 yards times 2.
It's so pretty. But it's only 800 meters and this is 1,400 meters. I can tell. Aha. Okay. What's our question?
It's about stranding. Or changing colors.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I vaguely remember this.
I read it 2 or 2 days ago. That's been, early.
Pre-migraine. Oh my gosh, no. No. Read it again, and I'm going to half listen as I measure, and that's going to be fun. But
Dear Becky and Lizzy, I always get confused when changing colors in a pattern. So, does the new color go behind the old color? Does it go in front? Does it get completely wrapped around the strand of the old color? How do I know what is under and over and behind and in front? Totally unstranded.
That's what that sounded like.
Well, when I read this question to you the other day, the biggest underlying question that we had was, is this for stranded color work? Is this for just changing colors in a hat? Is this, there are so many different... Can you read
it one more time?
Yes.
Shoot, I think this is only 16 and this is 18.
Oops.
Which means I should back out even more and I don't want to because I did all this work.
I could not do it.
I will decide off camera. Go ahead.
I always get confused when changing colors in a pattern. It doesn't specify what pattern. So does the new color go behind the old color? Does it go in front? Does it get completely wrapped around the strand of the old color? How do I know what is under and over and behind and in front?
And when I heard her read that the first time, in front or behind, to me meant like bringing it to the front of the work or the back of the work. And I was like, no to any of that. But I tend to use language like under and over in terms of what's happening this way rather than what's happening this way. But different brains process information in different ways. So there's many different ways we can approach this depending on, because as Liz just said, we don't know what she meant. She or he meant. And we can go from I'm thinking we can go from the most simple to the most complex, but migraine, I could wander a little. I'm just prefacing that. I don't know.
It's not a thing.
Not a thing. So, and doing the papillon right now, I think about carrying colors up the side.
Yeah.
And if you're doing rows of one color or a row or whatever, and you switch colors, then I actually have a tips and tricks video about carrying color up the side. And I think even in the video, I changed my mind about which way creates less bulk. But you do want the yarns to change places with some kind of twist.
When I carry my yarns up the side, and this one obviously did not, but the color that I'm finished with, I lay along the edge of the work and pull up the next color, and then I'll twist it into place like a stitch or two in, just so it's not right on the outside.
Like this here, this is, the gray is carried up the side. You can see a little bit there, kind of. But when you're changing, say you're knitting in the round and you're changing colors, if you don't pay attention to making sure they overlap in some way, and it doesn't mean you have to do this, but if they don't overlap in some way, you'll have a hole there. And you'll go back when you're done and say, there's a gap every time I change colors. What the heck, right? And the adage I learned when I was learning to knit was old over new. And what that means is, say I'm knitting around with my yellow, and I have to start knitting with my red next. And I have them on the back of the work. The yellow, I'm going to take over. Yellow's my old, red is my new. The yellow, I'm going to take over to, I have to think of my left from right now. The yarn's coming from the right as I knit. I'm going to take it over to the left and pick up the red under to the right, and that twists them. And then I'm going to start knitting with my red. And the next time it happens, my red will be coming up as my old color. My yellow is here as my new, and I will twist them again. The red will come over, old over, the new is picked up from underneath. That locks them in place, because the next time it happens, it'll twist them again in some fashion, or when you sew it in.
If I'm carrying yarn up, like I'm doing a beanie or a gnome hat, and I want to bring that color up, I'll do the old over new when
you're locking it.
When I'm locking it in place to bring it up, because
Say Liz was making a gnome hat with those red and yellow colors, which she wouldn't. But say there was like 8 rows of red before the yellow came back in, and you've locked them there. You locked them at the bottom, and I don't lock it every row. I mean, for me personally, if there was say 8 rows, I might lock it on row 4 to carry it up, or maybe every 2 rows. It's your personal preference. But what that means is when you come to the beginning of row marker, about 4 rows in, is that same thing. It's not so much just an old over new. It might be a full turn.
Old over new over old.
And so yeah, they twist around each other, and then you keep going with the color you have. And at first it might look like it's going to pop through and show on the front, but when you get to the 8th row and you kind of gently tug that yellow up to start knitting with it again, it'll pull the twist back, usually into the back side of the hat, and then it'll go up but be tacked down enough that hopefully your fingers won't catch it putting it on and off. I've had, even on this one, I think there are a couple spots where I forgot to lock it, and you can tell the difference. Like right here, see that gray? And over here, I was locking at the end of every row to carry the gray from here up to here. And then here, I locked and I forgot. The dark teal you see is wrapping around the gray to help tack it down. Here I didn't, but guess what? I'm changing colors so much. I've got a little bit of teal here. I'm probably going to tack it down when I weave the end in. So that's one thing. And the other thing to mention before we move on to a different, like Liz mentioned, stranded color work. That's a little different. Is we mentioned a jogless joint.
A jogless joint.
If you've got stripes, and my striped sweater is at home, of course. But if you have thick stripes, there's a way, like, because you're knitting around and then you start with a new color, old color ends, new color begins. You have what's called a jog. You've got a place where you can see old and new colors. And there's a way when you start knitting with your new color and you get back to the beginning of the round. There's a couple different ways, and I've made videos on this too. Made a lot of videos at this point. It's been almost a year.
Yeah.
There's ways to make it look a little smoother, because essentially when you're knitting in the round, it's a spiral. There's a way, if you're only doing single lines of color, to change them so the spiral never looks like it jogs. And that's changing colors at different points in the round. And it's really funky and hard to explain just using words. But if you have a thick band of that, I'm going to keep using that yellow and red. They're colors, they're shop colors, but they're colors I don't really work with that often. If you don't want it to look like the row goes like this, takes a step. One method that I'm using in the striped sweater that Andrea Mowry talks about is when you get back to the beginning of round, you've done one round with a new color, you pick up a leg from the row underneath where you started that color, you put it up on your left needle and you knit those two together. And it may not, it's like, how does that work? It does. It just kind of makes that line kind of go away. That hard line here, it just kind of melts. I'm trying to remember what the other one is right now to do a jogless joint. There's another version that I like.
I want to say that's the one I found.
The other one, now I'm remembering. The other one is when you come back, you slip the first stitch and you keep knitting.
Yeah.
And that can work too, to kind of meld that a little bit.
You're looking at it, it's not going to perfectly take away the jog,
no,
but it's going to make the visual effect smoother.
It's going to make it less noticeable.
Yeah.
My striped sweater. There are places where I did this and places where I didn't. And let's see if we can notice. I have to figure out where my beginning of round is. Anyway. And all the fuzzies. All the fuzzies. I think I did the jogless join on my body, and it's going to be under one armpit. So this is under one armpit. I don't see anything there, right? And this side, I think, is where the jogless join happens. And it's not quite as smooth. Like you can see there's something happening here, but it's not really bad.
It blends in enough. You're never gonna.
Now on the sleeves, I didn't do a jogless join. Can you see that right there? On the sleeves, I kind of forgot, or I was just like, ain't nobody got time for that.
Off by just a little bit when they meet.
That didn't use a jogless join, and yes, it looks like it's off or it's seamed or something. Whereas this down here,
you have to work really hard to find it.
You really have to, yeah. I can see through the camera that there's something happening here, but it's much less obvious. So, and that works really well with thick stripes, and some of these are kind of thin, which is why you can see them a little bit. Some of them are only 2 rows. Now, 2 types of color work you may encounter, like this sweater with stranded color work up here. There's also something called intarsia, which I'll address first. I don't do a lot of intarsia. Intarsia is where there's a blob, like there's a Santa in the middle of your stocking or something, where you're not carrying the red of the Santa all the way around the stocking. He's just sitting in the middle. So you come up with the green, and you got to switch to the red, and you got to switch to the green. That is pretty much exactly like what we've been talking about. You need to go old over new to lock it in place, or else your Santa is going to be free floating with a big huge gap. He's going to be carved out of your stocking. You're like, what happened? Always old over new. When you're not carrying the yarn across, old over new. But think about that. That twists every time, right? You can do that with stranded color work, but I don't advise it. Because if on this sweater, every single time I changed colors, I went old over new. you're going to end up with your yarns in a tangled mess because you're going to keep going like this. So my thing when doing stranded color work is I have settled into liking to hold, if it's two colors, one color in one hand and one color in the other. So I'm like English knitting with one, and I'm continental knitting with the other. So like red, red, yellow, red, red, yellow. But what's going on behind the scenes, and I think you do this too, Liz.
I do.
Is one color is going to come over the top to do its work, and that's usually the one that's English style knitting if I'm using two hands. And then one color is going to come up from the bottom. And if you go over, and I call it going over and under. If you do this, see how that's not going to twist. So you have a lot less twisting going on. It's not like you won't have any twisting, because that can happen.
And every now and then you'll have to twist it just to, like, if you have a long float, you want to twist it in place like you're carrying yarn up.
Yeah, exactly what she's saying. Going up and twisting to lock in place. The same thing if you have a long, we call them floats when the yarn has to carry behind. It floats behind the work. If we look at the back of this thing, look at all those floats. Woo, 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 woo. And some of them are locked in place. When there's slashes here, that's where I had to lock the dark magenta in place, like in some of these areas, because it was going behind so many stitches. Sometimes locking that in place is going to twist the yarn around itself. But for the most part, if you can go over and bring up from under and over and under, then, but see how, for me, all of that is going this way. It's not coming this way, which is how the letter was written. So
yeah.
Whoever wrote that letter, if they're not talking about this, if they were actually talking about this, they're going to have to translate that for themselves. But one of the ways sometimes you'll see patterns that are written, they'll say the contrast color, the color that's supposed to pop more, you want to hold, I want to say it's in your left hand. But often when I'm not paying attention to that, what I will do is I like to think earth coming up from the bottom and sky going over from the top. So I'll be like light color, dark color, to help my brain keep track of it. If you can do it if you can keep track of your colors, you don't need to do that. But for me, it can be a lot easier to go light and dark.
I tend to do light and dark, regardless of what I'm doing. Even if it's a shade lighter, it's easier to remember top and bottom
and not go, wait,
sky and
which one was I doing? Yeah. Or write it down, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have something like that to keep it in mind, write it down. But what's cool about that, and I can show you on the bottom part of this too, again, all these floats, right? Some people will go like, oh my gosh, no, that means that I'm going to have holes. You won't, because they're both coming in and locking and doing things. You don't have to super twist on stranded color work, aka Fair Isle, which not all stranded color work gets the designation of Fair Isle, but different people have different levels of snobbery on that. I will just call it snobbery. It's all good. But less twisting here is going to give it a flatter appearance when you block it. There's a good chance stranded color work is going to be bubbly when you do it a little bit.
You've always recommended if your float is longer than like 4 to 6 stitches.
Somewhere in the 4 to 6 range, yeah.
Because some people are like, ooh, it's 4 stitches, I should lock it in place. I tend to do the 6 plus stitches in between and then lock it in place.
Locks can sometimes, there's funky ways I just learned recently to do locks. You, instead of twisting like this, to actually do them within your stitches. It's really cool. I cannot tell you just verbally explaining it right now. It's less twisty, which is great. But apart from learning that, and if you don't want them to show, lock less.
And don't lock in the same spot in the same 2 rows. Like if you're on row 1 and you lock on spot A.
Do we know where my Wonder Beanie is? Is it up there?
It's over there.
I'm gonna go see if I can find it, because I learned this the hard way.
On row 2, lock in spot B or C. Like,
oh look, it's my Ultralock thing I was gonna show someone the other day. Oh. That's where it went. This hat, can you see? and see how there's blue showing through that star right there? It's because I locked it in the same place on 2 rows. So the blue was locked behind. So what I should have done is on the second row of the star, I should have locked it like 1 stitch over or 1 stitch back. And it would be much less noticeable. I'll try to find this and put this in the description too now that I've shown it off. Woo! I might have made this when the first Wonder Woman movie came out.
You made that like when the shop.
It was when the shop
brand
opened,
new.
which isn't when the Wonder Woman. I don't know. It was popular though.
Everybody was like the Wonder Woman beanie,
everything, the
shawl,
shawl.
the Wonder Woman shawl.
This was a free pattern. I'll see if I can find it, and if it still is, it's very cute. There was something else I was going to say. Oh, if you don't hold your stranded color work, if you don't do the 2-hand thing, if that is not where you're at, and that's okay. If you're holding it in one hand, be it this one or this one, I talk about, twisting like this. Like I will hold one above and one below sometimes, and I will go back and forth and still have that over and under depending on the color. You also can just drop and pick up yarn if you're doing it with one hand. But it's really make sure it's like if they're both hanging off, if you're picking up the lighter one, it needs to come over.
Yep.
And if you're picking up the darker one, it needs to come from under to wrap around. And you'll have less twisting, but it will still, like, I don't have holes in this, but I didn't do the corkscrew on this. And you can do it with one hand or 2. So I think that's what I was. Is there anything else of color work that we could, like, colors?
A lot of it is finding the method that works best for you.
Yep.
Like, if it's over and under, if it's, over and or under and over. Like,
I've done stranded color work with 3 colors. And
Then
I
it gets
actually
crazy.
I did over with one and under with the other, and the other one came through the middle.
I've
And
done
mostly not twisty. There's still some twisting.
Yeah. The more colors you throw into stranded color work, the more exciting it gets. What was it yesterday? You found the funny that was like, here's a way to look at patterns, and
Oh yeah.
and it was
It's
like,
your new knitter. It was like if easy or something else. It was a meme on Knit and Chat, I bet it. And it's like if it says easy, whatever, that's for you. If it says challenging or experienced or something, maybe wait on that. If it says heirloom,
get away from it.
put down the pattern and slowly back away.
Yeah.
Because heirloom is code for, in the middle of it you will say, I wish I would die so I don't have to finish this. Literally. Like, that's beyond losing the will to knit. But some people love that kind of challenge, so it's great.
We've found some patterns that are like, this pattern should only be attempted by experienced knitters who are up for,
that was in
anything.
the Ready Set Raglan. I'll find that in just a second. This one is said, it's the pattern I picked for this said it's heirloom like, which is not heirloom, but close. It actually is. I looked, it's a Pearl Soho pattern that it has some lace work, which lace work is just combinations of yarn overs, holes on purpose, combined with ways to decrease the stitches so you have the same number of stitches. And that can make things look like they're leaning or traveling or woo. It's usually not quite as complicated as it looks. This one looks really funky and awesome. And I looked at the chart, and there's nothing more complicated than a knit 2 together or a slip knit. Although you have to do stuff like that on the purl side, which is a little funky, but not too bad. So, no, this was, so I also found these really cute Star Wars stranded color work knits that were recently published. And one was Mandalorian and one was Baby Yoda, Grogu. And oh my gosh, it's so cute. Fingering weight yarn, of course. And she said, be forewarned, she said in the description, that there's times when you have 3 or 4 colors in one row. So not for the faint of heart.
We had a cable sock pattern that the description was like, it was a challenge for very experienced knitters.
Mm-hmm.
So beginners who were like, ooh, and it was like, no.
Do you remember?
It's the Estonian.
Oh, I know
star
it's this
flower.
one, but do you remember where it said that? It was like,
It might.
here it says. Ready? So here's the description of this lovely. You see it? You might not be able to see, but there's like flower work on the raglan seam of this pattern in the book that we do sell, by the way. Haha. We have copies still. This is the Lobelia Estonian Starflower Lace Raglan. It says, ready for a challenge? I mean, it starts with those words. Beginning knitter, pick something else in this book, please. You can do it, but you got to know it's a challenge.
I wouldn't pick this pattern first.
I would practice on some other stuff before you do this. We would never tell anyone you cannot do something. We would say that you may want to do a warm-up before you try this, or you may want to know going in, this is a challenge, and take it one step at a time.
Probably shouldn't be your first sweater.
But maybe your third.
Yeah.
Okay, so ready for a challenge? Lobelia is an update on a pattern from the Pom Pom Quarterly Archive, originally published as a lace-weight cardigan. But this one's a pullover. Here, the reverse stocking stitch is infused with a traditional Estonian lace motif, not for the faint of needle. The flower figure is made by knitting 3 stitches into 9, not only increasing the number of stitches, but also creating the basis for 3 flower petals in the process. That not for the faint of needle thing, red flag. If you are an experienced knitter and want a challenge, that will be a green flag. That will be a hold my beer. Challenge accepted.
I really, really, really want to do that. But it's stockinette reversed, so I have to purl. And
you could turn it inside out, but not for that part.
Not for that
See
part.
That? Woo!
The flowers are gorgeous, and I would love to do them in something, but
you'd have to reconcile yourself to purling.
Yeah. I'm not there yet.
But not for the faint of heart, because like chart, I'm not even gonna show you the chart too closely because buy the book, but the chart has a big V with a 9 in it at the bottom. That's some crazy.
So more
stitches.
terrifying than a chicken foot.
It's got 2 chicken feet in it. We call chicken feet when it's like that, and it's like a double decrease, but not necessarily a centered double decrease. It has a purl center double decrease. It has a purl 3 together chicken foot, and it has a purl 3 together through the back loop chicken foot.
I'm not there yet.
What I want to make out of this only has a slip knit or a knit 2 together, a 2 decrease, not a chicken foot. But I can do chicken feet. It's all good. The chevron in the Stay Out of the Forest is created by a centered double decrease, which is kind of like a chicken foot. It's more like a tent, a little teepee tent. And if you want to see what that looks like, my morning meditation, I think, has 2 within the space of a minute. So you can take a look. Shameless plug for my Instagram or Facebook. So we should go because it's coming up on 10 o'clock. We do not have any appointments yet, but that doesn't mean we won't.
If you show up and it feels cold outside,
make an appointment.
Make an appointment.
It's really easy to do. Almost everyone's got the internet on their phones. You don't have to go home to make an appointment. But if you need assistance making an appointment, let us know. We'll try to assist you. But we really, I've said it before. There's 2 reasons to make an appointment. There's probably more, but these are 2 reasons I'm going to rattle off right now. One is to read through all our guidelines because we do have a bunch. Letting someone in the shop without knowing our guidelines means we are going to be more unhappy when you leave because we're going to try to figure out what you touched and what is what needs to be cleaned up we may not be aware of.
We're practicing the Swiss cheese model of prevention, which means lots of layers.
Lots of layers.
So we limit appointments to a half hour.
We limit the number of people in the shop.
We prefer that you know what you want kind of before you come in,
That's actually the other reason they'll say real
so
fast.
we can do it as fast and limit exposure, and
it's so you know our guidelines and we know what you want. Even if it's I don't know what I want, but I like fingering weight yarn. That helps.
Just,
or
and anything,
I like thick yarn. I like blue yarn. I
anything to get us closer to.
Because just browsing the shop, that's challenging for multiple reasons. One, from a sanitary point of view. Two, we don't want you to trip because there's a lot of random stuff in the shop. It's harder to walk around the shop now from how we have to have it function. And I've noticed wearing a mask, I can't always see the tripping hazards at my feet. I fell into a bin of Encore yesterday.
Fortunately, it was a big one.
It absorbed my fall. It was wonderful. It's kind of like going into the bubble, the ball pit of mohair. But we wouldn't want our customers to go through that because it might hurt. So if you know what you want, we sit you at this very table and we try to prep and pull out ideas of what you might want. And we say, if it's on the table, fondle to your heart's content. And if you want to look at other stuff, let us take it off the wall so you can then fondle to your heart's content. But, pick something from here and then we'll go look at the colors if it's not the color you want. But it's really hard to keep socially distant and look at stuff in the shop because there's so much stuff on the floor right now because we're running out of space.
Yeah, and we don't have bathroom space for people coming in.
Nope, they need to know that before they arrive.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
our protocols. You can tell us, you can prep us because half an hour
goes by so fast.
You would not believe how fast half an hour goes by. And if you need more time, we may not have enough time to help you and get ready for the next person, let alone keep us all safe because inside is dangerous.
Last week, we had back-to-back appointments and we limited them to a half hour so that we can prep for the next appointment.
And clean if we need to, and yarn. And
all that
clear
fun stuff.
Place,
Last week with our back-to-back appointments.
Oh, it was a nightmare.
I wound up finishing with somebody who wanted yarn wound and then needed to be shown how to do stuff. And I was like, we're going to take this outside. Like, so your half hour's up. Ready. We got to go outside.
And then our next appointment showed up early. And a lot of people are doing that. They're showing up at least 5 to 10 to 15 minutes early for their appointments. And it's like, yes, I know they're only every hour, but they're scheduled on the hour for a reason.
And when you go to sign up, the sign-ups for that next hour close at a half hour before so that we can plan.
So at 3:45, you cannot sign up for 4.
No.
Because there's not enough time.
At 3:35, you can't sign up for 4.
At 3:30,
you can't.
Maybe 3:29.
Yeah.
You can sign up for 4. Anyway, yeah. So
it gives us
into our lives, right?
Well, if we're not prepped for an appointment and if you sign up like in that half hour window, like 3:45, and you're like, hey, I'm here, we might not have checked email. We might have the table cluttered with stuff we're putting away. We need the extra bit of time to
best
get ready.
Serve you. Yes. We need that time. And there's a lot of work that goes into that brief glimpse you get of the shop where we hopefully get you exactly what you want. We're not just sitting around going, oh, look, someone's coming. Yay. We're going, okay, someone's coming. Here's what they want. Let's do this. Let's do that. We have streamlined this sucker.
Because we're trying to cut down on your exposure and our exposure and
right.
Yeah.
And so you may not be in the shop for very long, but we try to make it as good of an experience as possible given the conditions and circumstances we're living through right now. I mean, I was saying to Liz the other day, we've been in the shop far longer, this new location, far longer under pandemic conditions than pre-pandemic.
Yep.
We got a good 3 or 4 months before the pandemic hit, being in this new lovely location. And we've been doing this for almost a year under pandemic conditions. So we got it streamlined and we're always adapting. So, yeah. Tomorrow is our nightly sit and stitch for Friday. We do it twice a week. We do it on Tuesday nights and Friday nights, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join on Zoom with the shop phone number, 828-877-3550. Write us if you want us to talk about something that you're interested in relating to knit or crochet. Please write Dear Becky and Lizzy, Sun Dragon Art and Fiber, 35 South Broad Street, Brevard, North Carolina 28712.
Or email me, liz@sundragonartandfiber.com.
There you go. And all the other stuff, I think I'm going to wait. And, you know, if you watch us regularly, you know our schedule. We'll be back on Tuesday. The 20th is our next Saturday afternoon sit and stitch. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some. Oh, we're slowly creeping past 450 subscribers. We're at like 455. Woo-hoo-hoo. Thank you, those of you who joined this week. We're pushing for the benchmark of 500. We'll have a sale. We'll do something special when we do. Today, I'm just excited that we're in syndication.
100 episodes.
100 episodes. We'd be in reruns if we were on normal TV.
That's just 100 episodes of Tuesday and Thursday.
Of the Sideshow.
That doesn't include
The straight up Sideshow.
That doesn't include our VSC. So, you know.
We're at like 46 of the VSC. So we're almost at 150 things that we've thrown up onto YouTube. That's so weird. So crazy.
Considering we were like, we're going to film once a week for no more than like 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh, our first episode was like 8 minutes and we were like, oh, this is so long. What are we going to do? And now we're like, oh yeah, we're going on an hour.
Yeah, we should stop
I didn't think
now.
I'd ever do an hour. For a long time, we were only doing half an hour. I'm sure we'll revisit this on our anniversary episode. Like, and people were like, half an hour is perfect. It's like watching a sitcom.
And then
and now we just ramble.
Ramble.
I said I wouldn't ramble, but
Squirrel.
hopefully we keep it kind of focused. People seem to still be enjoying it, right? Maybe give us a thumbs up if you do. Subscribe if you haven't already. It helps us. It helps you because if you hit that little bell, you know when we've been published. I mean, by now you know that if forbearing any crazy circumstances, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we are putting stuff out. I'm putting stuff out on Mondays. I might need to take a break this weekend. We'll see.
And occasionally, you get a bonus episode.
That's usually when we can't do the other stuff. But yes, you never know. That bell will tell you. So
the bonus episodes
sell you
are
something.
surprises.
But please consider subscribing because it helps us and it helps you. And tell your friends and neighbors if you think they would enjoy this. So, we should go. It's after 10. I could talk all day, apparently.
She's feeling better.
For now. Ask me at the end of the day. Okay. Have a great weekend, everybody. If we don't see you at midnight, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Oh well.
That might have to stay in.
Okay.